Sister Strečkovic, if we could start with you, please. What was the social and political climate growing up in your country?
I was born and raised in Serbia, which at the time was part of former Yugoslavia. As a young girl in early 80s, I remember watching news about Albanians in Kosovo protesting against the government. This protest created very negative attitude among Serbians against Albanians, but media made it even worse. They represented them as troublemakers. Over the years, there was more political turmoil, situation worsened, and in 1999, war broke out. My own nephew was forced to go to war, and I cannot imagine what he experienced there. But when he came back, he was never the same again.
I see. Thank you. Brother Deguti, what about your situation growing up?
Where I'm from, in Kosovo, there is a strong feeling of nationalism. Everything in our upbringing, starting from our home, the music we listen to, our schooling, we are taught to view Serbs as our enemies. The situation got worse after the war started in 1999. So if you had a friend who is from Serbia, you would be considered a traitor.
I see. Brother Oleski, please.
I was born and raised in Macedonia, which until 1990s was part of ex-Yugoslavia. And as Gordana mentioned, nationalism and the media caused division between people. But another factor is the religion. Due to historical circumstances, in that part of Europe, three religions fight for dominance. Therefore, it is not unusual in the same Balkan country, people that speak the same language to feel animosity toward each other. Why? Because they belong to different religions.
I see. Thank you. Second question, how did this affect you as a young person?
My family was not Jehovah's Witnesses, so I grew up believing everything I saw on the news. But that changed when I learned the truth in 1988.
I see. Brother Deguti?
This environment of strong nationalism really affected me. I was 15 when the war started in Kosovo, and later working for the government, you naturally were expected to be nationalistic. So even though Albanians and Serbians lived close to each other, it was a big wall of nationalism between us.
Yes, and Brother Oleski?
In the past, I had a desire to be an officer in the army. Therefore, in 1995, I started with military school. I graduated in the middle of 1999, and immediately after that, I started to work as an officer in the Macedonian army. That same year, 1999, the war started in Kosovo, and that caused tensions in nearby Macedonia. That very same year, also, I started to study the Bible.
I see. Now, Brother Deguti, if I could start with you for this question. How did the language of Canaan change your thinking?
Well, the change was not immediate. Outside the congregation, it was a burning nationalism and hatred towards Serbs. Then I go to the congregation, and I see a different world. Albanians calling Serbians brothers and sisters, and hugging them and warmly welcoming them in the meetings. I could not believe my eyes. How could that be? But then, knowing the truth, knowing Jehovah's viewpoint, what does the true love mean, and accepting others as Jehovah accepts them. So it affected my thinking and later my feelings. I wanted to be like others in the congregation, not to show any prejudice or partiality. So, for example, in our congregation, we had two old Serbian sisters living in an isolated area. And in the congregation, we had a program to pick them up and to bring in the meetings. So I offered myself to do that. I remember the first time when I drove into that isolated area, and when I get close to the house of two sisters, they saw me and they went out from their home and shouted, "My brother, my brother." In that moment, I was proud to be part of Jehovah's United Family. It was a wall of nationalism just broke down. And I never thought and imagined that one day I will do that. But only Holy Spirit can triumph over nationalism.
Yes, good. Thank you. Sister Strečkovic, please.
The truth has broadened my horizon. It has helped me not to judge people based on their nationality, not to generalize, and not to have prejudice. In the ministry, I see everyone as a potential servant of Jehovah. And in the congregation, I enjoy association with various people, and I'm very happy to have friends from different nations and lands. Actually, today, my graduation guests are from 4 different countries, from Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia, and from United States.
Thank you. Brother Ilieski, please.
After learning the truth, my faith grew stronger. And in 2001, I left the army and became a publisher. And that was just a month or 2 before the conflict between ethnic Macedonians and ethnic Albanians started in Macedonia. Looking back for that time, I'm convinced that Jehovah protected me and my conscience because I never even tried to kill someone, although that was part of my training. Also, I want to share another experience. In 2008, our branch organized a special preaching campaign in which publishers from several European countries were invited to Macedonia with a goal to preach on unassigned territories. Together with some of them, we went in an area that was, in fact, a former military zone. In one village, we met men that participated in the wars in Kosovo, South Serbia, and in Macedonia. He was nervous, but after that, the conversation went normal. But also, he was very surprised how come a Macedonian came to his village to talk to him. In the past, I would fight against him, but now I have opportunity to give witness to him.
Thank you. Excellent. One last question. How has a pure language of truth been a unifying force in your life? Please.
Being part of Jehovah's organization is unique and amazing. There are no borders for Jehovah's Spirit. We all share the common goal, to do Jehovah's will and to preach the good news. People in the world hardly ever have friends in other nations they had or have conflict with. It is strange for them how we all can be together in unity. But here I enjoy being with a wonderful Bethel family. And in the class, 48 people from 29 different countries. I see them all not just as my friends, but as my own family. And this is something I will be proud to share in my ministry and with my relatives back home.
Thank you. Beautiful expression. Brother de Gerti, please.
Even though people in our region were fighting and hating each other, at the branch in Albania we had a choir project that brought brothers and sisters from Serbia, Macedonia, Bulgaria, Croatia, Bosnia to sing praises for Jehovah. And it was amazing to see this beautiful family united, singing together, dancing together, and working together in the ministry. It was like a new world. And I want to mention just an experience. One day I was in the ministry with a Serbian brother, and we met an Albanian man, and he said, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Albania, from Kosovo, and my partner is from Serbia." He said, "Why you are together? How could that be? No, it's not possible." When I said, "Well, we are Jehovah's Witnesses," he said, "Now I understand why you are together." So even people outside in the world that are not Jehovah's Witnesses can see and recognize the unity that we have as Jehovah's people.
And thank you for sharing, Brother Ilieski.
Our branch has organized several language courses, among them Albanian as well, and that really helps to reach the heart of different people living in Macedonia with the Bible message. Another unifying factor are the missionaries from different countries, and that is really proof to me that we are one unified organization. Coming here at this school, as Petrit and Gordana mentioned, is unique experience also for me. Not our classmates are from different countries, but also being here in Patterson with much more people from different background. That's proof to me that we are one huge unified organization. And after this, I'm even more convinced that if we cherish Bible principles and apply them in our lives, we can maintain a good relationship with others.
Very nice. Thank you. Isaiah 19:18 concludes by saying, "One city will be called the city of tearing down." As we've seen, the language of Canaan, that is, the pure language of Bible truth, is successfully tearing down walls of division in Satan's world.
Well, thank you very much, Brother Cawthon and company. You've given the governing body some good ideas for future broadcasts of your sister station. But now we're going to get to enjoy another fine treat. We're going to get to enjoy an interview of two of our Gilead instructors, Brothers William Samuelson and Kenneth Stovall. Now, Brother William Malenfant, a helper to the teaching committee, will conduct this interview with the theme, Training Ministers of the Kingdom.
As you all know, the blessings that have resulted from Gilead School span the globe. Training of ministers of the kingdom. And the blessings are more numerous than we can count, but on this occasion we have two instructors with us, Bill Samuelson and Ken Stovall, and we'll learn a little bit more about the operation of Gilead School and some of the interesting things that take place behind the scenes at times. First of all, Bill, a question for you. Why were you brought into Patterson-Bethel back in 1998?
Well, Divine Education was moving forward. They were getting ready to start the school for traveling overseers. The branch committee members was also in operation, and I was brought in to work with those schools.
Okay, but when you came in, Ken, you were already serving for some time with the Gilead School operation. Tell us a little bit about the work that you had to do.
Oh, yes. November of 2015 was 25 years, so I'm in my 26th year of working with the schools department. So that's a quarter of a century, 42% of my life, 78% of my Bethel career.
He's a statistician, you know, yes.
Some of the things I've done over the years is scheduling classes, instructors, printing class materials needed to have for the students, working with visas. Of course, in the past, we had students that went to foreign assignments.
Yeah.
Now most of the students go back to their assignments, so we had to help them get into their countries of assignment. But now we have more students actually coming from countries outside the United States, so we have a lot of work to do with helping them get visas to get into the United States. And then in the last few years, I've done instructing in Gilead and the other schools that Theocratic Schools deals with.
Very good, Ken. Thank you very much. So, Bill, you began your Bethel career in 1998 when you came to Patterson-Bethel, correct?
Well, no, not exactly.
Oh.
I started when I was a little younger, back in 1955. I was at least 4.
Well, what was your assignment back in 1955?
55. I was assigned to WBBR. We had a radio station, and we had a farm and a cannery. I worked on the farm and the cannery, and after there for a short time, did a little bit of work on the station itself.
Mm-hmm. Who else was there at Staten Island at the time when you were called in as a young Bethelite?
Well, I was able to find one picture that might help us. This is the sign leading up to WBBR, not quite as up to date as they could be today. Mm-hmm. But the brother on the right is Brother Fred Franz, sister, one of the Canning sisters, Margie Banza Hughie, and myself on the left.
Brother Franz had a studio out there, or a study, better said.
He did all of his work out there for the writing department at that time.
But now this was back in 55 when you started your career. Ken, where were you in 1955?
Do you want to see a picture?
Yes, please.
All right. Wait a minute, it's coming. There I am.
You got Bethel written all over your face on that picture. Yeah. Very good. Now, getting back to you, Bill, what was the Bethel arrangement like at Staten Island, the house, et cetera, the property?
Well, the sign that we saw with the three of us there, behind that was a long driveway with a beautiful hedge on both sides. It may have a picture of that. And from there, behind that, and if we don't, that's okay, there it is, had to trim that with hand trimmers. We didn't have electric yet, but at the top, at the very top, is the house and studio for BBR. The house to the left, the big house, is where we had all of our Bethel people living, and the one to the right was the studio and the transmitter building.
That's remarkable. You had gardens there at Staten Island, didn't you? You worked in the field in order to supply food for Brooklyn Bethel, but there was a brother, an older brother, who worked with you there. He had a saying that was very interesting, Bill. Tell us about it.
Yeah, we actually had 7 acres under irrigation, overhead oscillators that took care of that. And we had Brother Eldon Woodworth. He'd been at Bethel for a number of years. His wife had had some health problems. For quite some time, she was hospitalized. She had just been released, and he was transferred from Brooklyn, which he loved, to Staten Island. And now he finds himself digging in the mud with the rest of us young guys. And of course, he was a lot older. But you know how young brothers are. They start complaining once in a while. Not that any of our Bethelites would ever do that. But he would listen about as long as he could. And then he had that expression. He'd say, "It sure is marvelous what the Lord has done with what he's got to work with."
I think that's something we could apply right now, too. Bill, why do you have such fond memories, though, of the cannery at Staten Island? There has to be a reason for that.
Well, let me show you another picture. This one was taken about a year later. The brother on the left is Ralph Leffler. He was our chief engineer at the station. That's Angie Romano Samuelson next to him, myself, and then a sister, Etta Huth. Now, Etta had responsibility for the canning. She looked after the formulas and the cooking and all of that. I worked in the boiler room, but Etta helped Angie into the truth. She was the one that really took her under her wing, sort of became a spiritual mother. I've always maintained that it takes 2 to make a marriage, an anxious daughter and a desperate mother. And apparently, in this case, it worked.
Very good. Now, when you and Angie got married, then you left Staten Island, and you had a number of assignments that helped prepare you for your role as an instructor. Can you give us just a brief summary of your activities after you left Staten Island?
Well, as you remember, you couldn't get married and stay at Bethel at that time. If you got married, unless you'd been there 10 years and your wife 4 or some such thing. So we pioneered on Staten Island. I continued to work at BBR, only now it was WPOW, the people that bought it from the society. About 3 years. Then we got assigned into special pioneer work. From there, we got invited to the month Kingdom Ministry School up at South Lansing, Kingdom Farm. And from there, we got assigned into missionary work in Cambodia. We were there for a short time. Political situation was not good. And we ended up in Vietnam, and then we ended up returning to the States. After getting things squared away physically and otherwise here, we were put in circuit work in 1965. We served then for 33 years, 22 in circuit, 11 in district.
No, I remember when you used to be convention overseer in the New York City area and when you were on the road. Now, back to you, Ken. Why is Gilead School more than just an academic course, a matter of acquiring knowledge, book knowledge?
Yeah, the curriculum is not designed just to help students memorize a lot of facts. It's designed to build their faith. You know, at Luke 2:47, when Jesus, as 12 years old, was being questioned by the instructors of the temple, they were amazed. But it's interesting what they were amazed at. It wasn't that Jesus was citing a lot of the law that he had memorized or a lot of facts. It says they were amazed at his understanding. So he understood what was underneath the law, the principles. He understood the author of the law and why the law was the way it was and what Jehovah was thinking. And really that's the goal of Gilead, is to help the students with the knowledge to get closer to Jehovah, to understand him better. And then when they do that, they can love Jehovah better and they can have more faith in him. And with that strengthened faith, they can face whatever they need to.
Very good. And Bill and Ken, you can answer that. Both of you can give us a comment on this question. When you first see students come into Gilead, and then the time of graduation comes, are you able to detect certain changes in the students themselves because of the schooling they've received? Bill?
Surely, they come in, now the students are already in special full-time service, spiritually mature, solid. As a result, you may not expect to see quite as much. I just received an email from a student this morning that was assigned into the field in an Asian country, and they're just overjoyed. They say that every day, they were 23 years in full-time service before they came, and every day they think about what they learned at Gilead. It strengthens them. They come, they're spiritually mature, and they leave even more so.
Very good. And Ken, you have some interesting thoughts and comments about reviews the students have taken, tests, and observations also?
Yeah, it's true. Like Bill said, we get information or correspondence from the students where they express appreciation, which speaks to your question about how do they change. For example, here's one recent one, and this is what they said. We would like to express our deepest appreciation for the precious education we received at Gilead and the unforgettable lessons you lovingly shared with us. Thank you so much for the time you spent preparing our minds and hearts for our assignment. Not a day passes by that we do not think about something we learned at Gilead. In fact, when we encounter an unusual situation or need to make a decision, the first thought that comes to our minds is, what did we learn at Gilead that would apply? And we really feel that it is helping us to develop a new pattern of action and reaction. So the students are affected, and we see that. Something that I've noticed that is a change in the students, and it almost seems like a contradiction, but it's not really. But here's what it is. They come in and go out with more humility. Now, humility not because they're beaten down. In the world, they think to make someone more humble, you have to slap him around and beat him down. But in fact, they are more humble because of the humble examples they see around them and the kind way they're treated, and it humbles them. But the contradiction, or what seems to be the contradiction, is they also leave with more confidence. Now, you might wonder, how can they be more humble but have more confidence? Well, it's not excessive self-confidence, but it's confidence in the fact that if they apply Bible standards, if they do things Jehovah's way, they see that for sure they will be able to be successful in the assignments they're given. So at the same time as having more humility, they actually do have more confidence.
That's an interesting observation, Ken. And Bill, back to you now. What has Gilead School, the entire course, served as respects other schools, a foundation for other schools that we have operating?
Well, the last 3 years that I was in traveling work before coming to Bethel to Patterson, I taught the ministerial training school and got familiar with the curriculum, but I had no idea of the bases. When I got here and got involved with Gilead, come to find out, all of our schools really, back then MTS, today SKE, and all of the ones in between, our school for for the congregation elders, the foundation is the material that we teach at Gilead. That is solid spiritual material, not the technical end of things, but the spiritual instruction is based solidly on the Bible. And so all of our other schools really benefit from the curriculum of Gilead.
That's fine. And Ken, you made a comment earlier about seeing a miracle every day. Can you tell us what that means?
Yeah, sure. Did you want to discuss the written exercises?
Well, you can do that too,
Okay.
Ken. Yes, if you would like to catch us up on this interview, that's fine.
Well, we had mentioned that the students take written exercises. We don't call them tests.
Oh.
But it is interesting to see some of their answers. Over the years, I've graded some of those tests, and it can be tedious, but also the reward is that there's sometimes some funny answers that come up on those written exercises.
That happens also because of foreign language, and they're
That's true.
dealing with the English language. But go ahead, give
That's
us a
true.
couple examples.
So we chuckle respectfully when we read those
Yes.
answers. For example, here was one. The question was based on Leviticus 16:26 about the goat for Azazel. What does it mean? And the student meant to write scapegoat, but they transposed the C and the P, and what they actually wrote was space goat.
Did you grade the student on that error, or did you give him credit?
We just wrote a little note and gave him credit. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Another one. What are the three aids to manifesting long suffering or patience? And what we were looking for were things like humility, prayer, unselfish love. And the student put two of those. But the very first, their number one answer, their first answer on what would aid them to have patience was marriage.
I'm not even going to ask you how you graded that student.
Well, it was a single brother. And my question was, how did he know?
Very good.
And one
ahead.
other was regarding, it was about theocratic history. And the question was, how were congregation elders first selected? And the answer was, the student put, by vote, by those fully desecrated in the congregation. And I'm pretty sure they meant to put consecrated.
Yes. This everyone who learns another language knows what it's like to make some very interesting mistakes.
But you had asked about the miracle. One of the things that really, or the thing that I most love about working with Gilead is working with the students. It's just an amazing privilege. And that's because, as we've seen earlier in the program, that our worldwide brotherhood is, in fact, not illustratively, but really is a miracle. And the Insight book defines miracle as an occurrence that excites wonder or astonishment, effects in the physical world that surpass all human or natural powers and are therefore attributed to supernatural agency. The fact is, there is no human power on earth that could establish and maintain the worldwide brotherhood we have. It has to be Jehovah's Spirit. And so it is a miracle. And so when I go into class and talk to the students and I hear them express their faith, and they're from all around the world, and their faith is exactly like mine, I'm experiencing a miracle. So every day of my life, I firsthand get to see a miracle. And it's such a privilege. It's a wonderful privilege working with Gilead.
Very, very good observation, Ken. And the love they have among themselves, although from so many different lands. Well, Bill, you're getting to a certain point in life that I won't go into great detail on, but maybe you have a final observation for us.
Well, as I think most are aware, when you turn 80, you generally have a change of assignment here at Bethel. And a week ago, I turned 80. And now, as was introduced earlier in the program, Brother Mark Newmayer is the overseer of the department. The department was formed in 2007. I've had the privilege of serving as the overseer since that time. For the last 9 years, it's been a real joy. I've enjoyed working with all of the instructors, just excellent men. and especially with Mark. He's been extremely helpful. I've worked with him a little longer than just the 7 years, going back a little further than that. But he's been an outstanding instructor, as was evident in the talk he just gave. And the students admire him, and we're going to enjoy working together as we see the Theocratic Schools Department continue to accomplish its work.
Yes, indeed. And Ken, I think you had one other observation you wanted to make about Bill.
Working with Brother Samuelson has been a great pleasure. He has been a marvelous overseer. He is organized, has a plan of action to get work accomplished, but he's reasonable. He has always dealt with everyone with dignity, and it's been a real pleasure to work with Brother Samuelson. And also, he's an excellent student of the Bible. If I have questions on the Bible, I'll go to Bill, and he will tell me not only the way we currently think about it, but a history of how our thinking developed. So he's been a wonderful overseer.
Well, I think it's very nice you're placing a degree of praise upon your fellow worker, Bill Samuelson. After all, I'm a firm believer that older men who are teachers and who speak in the congregation are worthy of double honor. So thank you very much, Bill and Ken.